Harlem Mount Olivet Baptist Church, Sunday afternoon. Over 400 people packed into wooden pews. The organ playing His Eye is on the Sparrow. Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Germid eulogy. Then Bumpy Johnson stood up from the second row. The room went silent. Bumpy walked toward the casket, slow, deliberate, each footstep echoing against the walls. The organ stopped. The preacher stopped. 400 people held their breath. Bumpy reached the casket, looked down at Nurse Sadie Washington. The peaceful expression, the white lace dress, the thick makeup covering her face and neck. Everyone else had seen a woman who died too young. Bumpy saw a cover-up. He leaned closer, studied her neck, then reached down and touched the powder on her throat. When he pulled his hand back, his fingers were covered in thick theatrical makeup. He looked at the funeral director standing nervously near the wall. "Why is there so much makeup on her neck?" The man went pale, started sweating. Bumpy pushed back Sadie's collar, and what 400 people saw next made women scream and men turn away. Rope burns, deep, brutal, purple and black, circling her throat like a necklace of violence. This wasn't a heart attack. This was murder, and what Bumpy did in the next 96 hours killed 3 men, made 6 NYPD officers resign, and changed how Harlem dealt with police corruption forever. Chapter 1, Seeing the Angel of Harlem. To understand what happened that Sunday, you need to understand who Sadie Washington was, and why one witness's information set off a chain reaction nobody could stop. September 1948, Harlem was a place where black families worked 2 jobs to survive. Where you knew your neighbors. Where community wasn't just a word, it was survival. And Nurse Sadie Washington was the heart of that community. Sadie was 30 years old, born September 14, 1918 on the 139th Street. Her mother, Dorothy Washington, had taken in laundry for 6 years to put Sadie through nursing school at Lincoln Hospital. Sadie graduated in 1941, top of her class. By 1908, she'd delivered over 300 babies at Harlem Hospital. Worked the night shift for 7 years straight. Never missed a single day. She never married. When people asked why, she'd smile and say, "Harlem's my family. These babies are my babies." Every Sunday, she sang soprano in the choir. Every Friday, she visited the elderly on her block, bringing soup, checking blood pressure, sometimes just sitting and talking. People loved her. Not the way you love a celebrity. The way you love someone who saved your child's life, who held your hand when you were dying, who showed up. But Sadie had a problem she didn't even know about. Her younger brother, Marcus Washington, was 28 years old. Sadie's opposite in every way. Marcus gambled, drank, jumped from job to job. By 1947, he'd burned every bridge in Harlem. So he moved to New Haven, Connecticut. Told Sadie he'd found work at the docks. What he really found was a poker game and a loan shark named Vincent Moroni. January 1948, Marcus borrowed $800 from Moroni, said he'd pay it back in 2 months. Moroni charged 20% interest per month, compounded. By March, Marcus owed $152 and couldn't pay. Moroni sent his men. Marcus saw them coming, disappeared into upstate New York, didn't tell Sadie, didn't tell his mother, just vanished. By September, 6 months later, with accumulated interest, Marcus owed over $2,000. Moroni didn't care about excuses. He wanted his money. And if Marcus wouldn't pay, Moroni would find someone who would. He found Sadie. Now, here's the connection most people don't know. Bumpy Johnson had known Sadie since she was 8 years old. Winter 1926. Bumpy was 24, working for Madame Stephanie Claire, running numbers in Harlem. One night he got into a knife fight with rival crew members. 3 deep cuts across his ribs. He stumbled into an alley on 139th Street, bleeding, knowing hospitals meant cops, and cops meant prison. 8-year-old Sadie Washington found him. She ran home, got her mother. Together, they dragged Bumpy into their apartment, stitched him up with sewing thread and iodine, kept him hidden for 4 days until he could walk. Bumpy never forgot that little girl. Over the next 28 years, he made sure Sadie's family never wanted for anything. When Sadie's father died in 1939, Bumpy paid for the funeral. When Sadie needed money for nursing school, Bumpy gave it. No interest, no strings. To Harlem, Sadie Washington was an angel. To Bumpy Johnson, she was family. The real kind. Chapter 20, The Debt Collectors. Monday, September 6, 1948. Vincent Moroni drove from New Haven to Harlem. With him, Tommy Riachi and Frank Calabrese, his best muscle. They had one job: find Marcus Washington, or find someone who could pay his debt. They found Sadie's address through a contact in Connecticut who knew the Washington family. They parked across from her apartment building on 441st Street. Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday morning. They watched, waited, saw Sadie leave for work, come home, but no Marcus. By Wednesday afternoon, Moroni was done waiting. If the brother won't show, we take the sister. She pays or she tells us where he is. Wednesday night, September 8, 1948, 11:32 p.m. Sadie Mae Washington was walking home from her shift at Harlem Hospital. She'd just worked 14 hours, double shift because another nurse called in sick. She was exhausted. 2 blocks from her apartment on 441st Street, a blue Bic pulled up beside her. Connecticut plates, 3 men inside, Vincent Moroni, Tommy Riachi, Frank Calabrese. The car slowed. Moroni rolled down the window. "Hey, you Sadie Washington." Sadie stopped, looked at the car. 3 white men she didn't know. Late at night, her instincts screamed danger. "Who's asking?" "Your brother Marcus owes me money. 2 grand. I'm here to collect." Sadie's stomach dropped. "I don't know where Marcus is. I haven't seen him since March." Moroni smiled. Not a friendly smile. A wolf smiled. "Then I guess you'll have to pay his debt." Riachi moved fast, opened the back door, grabbed Sadie before she could run. She screamed once, loud, high-pitched. Then Riachi's hand clamped over her mouth, dragging her toward the car. She fought, kicked, scratched his face. Riachi threw her into the back seat, climbed in after her. Calabrese hit the gas. The car sped away. From across the street, 3rd floor window, Mrs. Ella Brooks was sitting in her armchair. She suffered from insomnia. Most nights she sat by her window from 10:00 p.m. to 2:00 a.m., just watching the street, watching her neighborhood. She saw everything. The blue Bic that had been parked there for 3 days. The same 3 white men she'd seen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The car pulling up beside Sadie. The man grabbing her. Sadie's scream cutting through the night. The car speeding away. Brooks jumped up, her heart pounding. She wanted to run outside, call for help, call the police. But Mrs. Ella Brooks was 68 years old. She'd lived in Harlem since 1903, 45 years. She knew how this worked. Police didn't come for black folks. Not quickly, not seriously. And if they did come, they usually made things worse. Mrs. Brooks had seen police beat her neighbor's son in 1934 for talking back. Seen them arrest her friend's daughter in 1941 on false charges. Seen them look the other way when white men started trouble. And now at 11:32 p.m. on a Wednesday night, calling the police felt useless. What would she say? Some white men took a Negro woman. The police would ask questions, take notes maybe, but they wouldn't act. Not for Sadie. Not for someone like her. But Mrs. Brooks wasn't helpless. She grabbed a pencil and an envelope from her kitchen drawer, sat down at her small table, wrote carefully. License plate number, Connecticut, full number, blue Bic, men, 3 white men, time 11:32 p.m. September 8, 1948, location 141st Street, grabbed Sadie Washington. She folded the paper, put it in her Bible for safekeeping. Then she sat by that window until sunrise, praying Sadie would come home. Sadie didn't come home. Chapter 33, Hours of Hell. They took Sadie to an abandoned warehouse near the East River. A place Moroni used for collections, for persuasion, for making examples. Inside, Moroni tied Sadie to a chair. "Where's your brother?" "I don't know." "Please, I haven't seen Marcus since March." Wrong answer. What happened over the next 3 hours was torture. Moroni used rope, cigarettes, his fists, trying to make Sadie tell him where Marcus was hiding. Trying to make her call him, give up an address, something. But Sadie didn't know. Genuinely didn't know. Marcus had cut her off 6 months ago. Stopped calling, stopped writing. She couldn't give Moroni what she didn't have. Around 2:00 a.m., Moroni was frustrated, angry. He'd driven 6 hours to Harlem, spent 3 days watching Sadie's apartment, and this woman was giving him nothing. He wrapped the rope around Sadie's neck, tightened it. Last chance. Where is he? Sadie couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Moroni pulled harder. At 20:17 a.m., Sadie Mae Washington stopped breathing. Moroni let go, stepped back, looked at Riachi, at Calabrese. "Shit." Calabrese started panicking. "We just killed a nurse, a Negro nurse in Harlem. We need to..." "Shut up. Let me think." Moroni thought fast. "Woo, make it look natural. Heart attack. She was overworked, night shift nurse, 30 years old, but working herself to death. It happens." "How?" asked Riachi. "I know a cop. Patrick Donnelly, 28th Precinct. He's been on our payroll for 2 years. We call him. He writes the report. Says heart attack, natural causes. We give him $1,000 and he makes this go away." They wrapped Sadie's body in a blanket, drove back to her apartment at 3:30 a.m., carried her up 3 flights of stairs, laid her on the bedroom floor, made it look like she'd collapsed getting ready for bed. Moroni looked around the apartment. Small, clean. Photos of Sadie with patients, with babies she'd delivered, a calendar on the wall with hospital shifts marked in pencil. For 1 second, Moroni felt something. Guilt, regret. Then he remembered the $2,000 Marcus owed him. He pulled out a payphone number, made a call. Chapter 40. The cover-up, Thursday morning, September 9th, 1948, 7:00 a.m. The building superintendent, Mr. Lewis, knocked on Sadie's door. She hadn't shown up for work. The hospital had called. That wasn't like her. Sadie was never late, no answer. He used his master key, opened the door, found Sadie on the bedroom floor, face down, one arm stretched out like she'd been reaching for something. Dead. Mr. Lewis ran downstairs, called the police from the lobby phone. At 7:35 a.m., officers Patrick Donnelly and James Murphy arrived. Donnelly walked into the bedroom first, looked at Sadie's body, saw the bruise on her left cheek, the rope burns on her neck. Someone had tried to position her collar to hide them, but he could still see marks, the torn fingernails. This wasn't a heart attack. Murphy knelt down, checked for a pulse, even though she'd clearly been dead for hours. "What do you think, Pat?" Donnelly glanced at Murphy, then at Mr. Lewis standing in the doorway. "Step outside for a minute, sir." Mr. Lewis left, closed the door. Donnelly walked to the window, looked out at the street. At the blue Bic parked 2 blocks away, Maroney's car, still in the neighborhood. Murphy saw Donnelly's face. Something was wrong. "Pat, what's going on?" "Nothing, we're writing this up as natural causes." "Are you serious? Look at her neck. Heart attack." "She fell, hit her face on the nightstand. That's what killed her. That's the report." Murphy stared at his partner. They'd been partners for 3 years. Murphy trusted Donnelly, respected him. "But this is murder. Look at her hands. She fought someone." Donnelly stepped closer, voice low. "Dangerous. Listen to me. This is a dead colored girl whose brother owed money to the wrong people. If we write this up as murder, we open an investigation. That investigation leads to white men from Connecticut, connected men. That creates problems. Big problems for them, for us, for everyone." He paused. "So we write heart attack, we file it, we walk away. The family gets closure. Nobody gets hurt. Everybody lives." Murphy looked at Sadie's body, at the evidence of violence, at the life that had been stolen. Then he looked at his partner. Murphy had a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage. He'd seen what happened to cops who didn't play ball, transferred to the worst precincts, passed over for promotions. Or worse. He made a choice. Heart attack. Donnelly nodded. "Good man." That afternoon, Donnelly visited Mrs. Washington's home, delivered the news, suggested Raymond Carter's funeral home. "He's the best in Harlem, ma'am. He'll take good care of Sadie." Washington, destroyed by grief, nodded. That evening, after Donnelly met with Maroney in a diner in the Bronx and collected an envelope with $4,000 cash, the official police report was filed. Case number 48-2064-2, victim Sadie Mae Washington. 30, cause of death, cardiac arrest, natural causes, status closed. Then Donnelly drove to Raymond Carter's funeral home. Carter was in his office when Donnelly walked in. "Officer Donnelly, what can I do for you?" "I'm handling Sadie Washington's funeral." "Yes, her mother just called. Service will be Sunday." Donnelly closed the door, sat down. "Mr. Carter, this is a sensitive situation. Miss Washington's death was sudden, heart attack, very tragic. But sometimes with sudden deaths, the body shows signs. Discoloration, minor bruising from the fall, things that might upset the family." Carter frowned. "I always make the deceased look peaceful. I know you do excellent work. But in this case, I need you to be extra careful. If there are any marks on her body, any bruises, any discoloration, cover them completely. Heavy makeup if necessary. The family shouldn't see anything that might cause them more pain." "Officer, is there something?" Donnelly pulled out an envelope, placed it on the desk. $500. For your discretion. For making sure this funeral brings peace to the family. Not more questions. Carter looked at the envelope, at Donnelly's face. He understood. Carter had 3 kids, a business that could be shut down with one health violation call. He'd seen it happen to other black-owned businesses. "I'll make sure she looks peaceful." Good man. Chapter 5, The Anonymous Tip. Friday, September 10th. Word spread through Harlem like wildfire. Nurse Sadie had died. Heart attack, only 30 years old. People were devastated. Women cried in the streets. Men who hadn't been to church in years started praying. But something felt wrong. Sadie was young, healthy, never sick, never complained. And she'd been fine Wednesday night. People had seen her leaving the hospital, smiling, tired, but okay. How does someone like that just drop dead? People whispered, questioned. But what could they do? The police said, heart attack. The medical examiner signed the certificate. Case closed. Mrs. Ella Brooks sat in her apartment, holding that envelope with her notes, license plate, time, details. Thursday morning at 9:00 a.m., she'd heard the ambulance, heard the neighbors saying Sadie was dead. Heart attack, they said. But Mrs. Brooks knew different. She'd seen those men grab Sadie Wednesday night. 16 hours later, Sadie was dead. That wasn't coincidence, that was murder. But who could she tell? The police? The same police who'd written heart attack in 6 hours and closed the case. Brooks spent all day Friday thinking, praying, scared. She knew about Bumpy Johnson. Everyone in Harlem knew Bumpy Johnson. Some people feared him. Some people respected him. Most people understood. Bumpy took care of Harlem when nobody else would, and Mrs. Brooks remembered something. Years ago, maybe 1940 or 1941, she'd seen Bumpy at Mrs. Washington's house, coming by with groceries. Sitting on the porch, talking with Sadie and her mother like family. Bumpy cared about Sadie. But if Mrs. Brooks went to Bumpy directly, walked into his office, asked to meet him, people would see. Word would spread. And if those white men found out, they'd come for her. Connecticut plates meant these weren't local thugs. These were organized men, connected men, men with resources. Mrs. Brooks needed to tell Bumpy, but safely. Anonymously, Friday night, 11:47 p.m., Mrs. Brooks walked the 6 blocks to Small's Paradise. The streets were busy enough that she wouldn't stand out. Another elderly woman walking home from a friend's house. She climbed the stairs to Bumpy's office above the club. The hallway was empty. His door was locked. Good. She took out the envelope, opened it. The notes she'd written Wednesday night. She tore off a fresh piece of paper, wrote carefully. They took her. Wednesday night, 11:32 p.m. 3 white men, blue Bic, Connecticut plates. Below that, she wrote the full license plate number. No signature. No name, too dangerous. She slipped the paper under the door, walked downstairs out of the club home, praying Bumpy would understand. Praying she'd done enough. Chapter 6c. The investigation. Saturday morning, September 11th, 1948, 5:45 a.m. Bumpy Johnson arrived at his office. He usually came early, like the quiet before the city woke up. He unlocked the door, pushed it open. There was a piece of paper on the floor. Someone had slipped it under the door. Bumpy picked it up, read it. They took her. Wednesday night, 11:32 p.m. 3 white men, blue Bic, Connecticut plates. Below that, a license plate number. Bumpy read it twice. Then he sat down at his desk, stared at those words. They took her. He'd heard Friday afternoon. Illinois had come by around 2:00 p.m. Bump, bad news. Sadie Washington died Thursday morning. Heart attack. Only 30 years old. Bumpy had stopped what he was doing. What? I just heard. They found her Thursday morning, dead on her bedroom floor. Police said heart attack. Heart attack. 30 years old. Bumpy had known something was wrong immediately. Sadie didn't get sick. Didn't smoke. Didn't drink. Ran up 3 flights of stairs every day without breathing hard. But police said heart attack. Medical examiner signed it. What could he do? Now he was looking at a note that said different. They took her. Not, she died. Not heart attack. They took her. Someone had seen something Wednesday night, and whoever wrote this knew it wasn't natural causes. Bumpy picked up the phone, called Illinois. Get here now. Saturday, 6:30 a.m. Illinois Gordon walked in, saw Bumpy's face. What happened? Bumpy handed him the note. Illinois read it, looked up. When did this come? Sometime last night. Someone slipped it under the door. You believe it? Bumpy stood, walked to the window. Sadie Mae Washington was 30 years old. Never smoked, never drank, worked night shift for 7 years. Never sick, never tired. He turned back to Illinois. Wednesday night, she walks home from work. Thursday morning, she's dead. Police write heart attack and close the case in 6 hours. He picked up the note again. Someone saw her get grabbed Wednesday night. 3 white men, Connecticut plates. 16 hours later, she's dead. That's not coincidence. Illinois nodded slowly. What do you need? Start with this license plate. I want to know who owns that car, where they're from, why they were in Harlem. Everything. And get me names. Everyone who responded to Sadie's apartment. Every cop, every detective, everyone who signed that death certificate. Already working on it. I'll have names by tonight. Good, the funeral's tomorrow. Sunday afternoon, Mount Olivet. You going? I'm going, and if someone tried to cover this up, I'm going to find out exactly what they're hiding. Saturday, 9:00 a.m. to 8:00 p.m. Illinois worked his network. The license plate went to Joey, numbers, Catalano, best information broker in New York. Had contacts in every precinct, every borough, half of New England. Joey made calls. Connecticut DMV, state police, bookmakers in New Haven. By Saturday evening, Illinois had what they needed. Blue Book, Connecticut plates, registered to Vincent Moroni, New Haven, Connecticut, age 42. Occupation loan shark enforcer. Known associates Tommy Riachi, muscle. Frank Calabrese, driver. Criminal record, 2 arrests. No convictions. Witnesses disappeared. And the connection, Marcus Washington had borrowed money from Moroni in January. By March, Marcus owed over $1,000 and disappeared. Moroni had been looking for him ever since. Illinois also got the police names. Police officers Patrick Donnelly, James Murphy. First responders detectives Robert Walsh, Frank Sullivan. Signed off on closed case medical examiners Dr. Leonard Ashford, Dr. Philip Hartman. Signed death certificate without full autopsy. Illinois brought everything to Bumpy Saturday night. Bumpy looked at Marone's photo, at the criminal record, at the names of 6 officers who'd closed the case without investigation. Where's Marone now? Best guess, either back in Connecticut or still in the area. If they killed Sadie and paid off the cops, they think they're safe. Bumpy placed Marone's photo on his desk. Tomorrow at the funeral, I'm going to see Sadie, see what the police missed. Then we're going to find these 3 men. And the cops who helped them. Them too, everyone who touched this. Everyone who looked the other way. Chapter 7 The Funeral Revelation Sunday, September 12, 1948. 1:30 p.m. Bumpy Johnson stood outside Mount Olivet Baptist Church. He'd faced down killers, walked into police stations alone, stared down death more times than he could count. But walking into that church to see Sadie in a casket, that required something different. Finally, he pushed open the door. The church was packed, over 400 people. When Bumpy entered, conversations stopped. People moved aside, made a path. His eyes found the casket first, open. Sadie lying there in a white dress, hands folded, face peaceful. Too peaceful. The makeup was thick. Even from the doorway, Bumpy could see it. Heavy foundation on her face, on her neck. Then he saw Sadie's mother. Mrs. Dorothy Washington sat in the front row, 72 years old, face destroyed by grief. When she saw Bumpy, she stood, reached for him with shaking hands. Bumpy took her hands gently. Ellsworth. Her voice cracked. My baby. She was so young, so healthy. I know, Mrs. Washington. They said heart attack, but Ellsworth, Sadie was never sick. Not even a cold. How does a healthy girl just... She couldn't finish. Just cried. Bumpy squeezed her hands. Mrs. Washington, I promise you, I'm going to find out what really happened to Sadie. Mrs. Washington looked up at him, hope breaking through grief. You promise?
Yes, Mom, I promise.
Bumpy moved to the second row, sat down. The service began. Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr. stood at the pulpit, delivered the eulogy. Sadie Mae Washington was a servant of God and servant of this community. She brought life into this world. 300 babies born because of her hands. 300 mothers who trusted her. 300 families who knew Sadie. Bumpy tried to listen, but his eyes kept returning to the casket. The makeup, it was wrong. He'd seen enough bodies, prepared enough funerals. Natural death didn't require that much coverage. Heart attack victims looked peaceful. Pale maybe, but peaceful. This was different. The foundation on Sadie's face was thick. Theater makeup thick. And on her neck even thicker, layered, like someone was covering something. Bumpy leaned forward, studied her face from 15 feet away. Why so much makeup? The note had said. They took her. Wednesday night. Thursday morning, she was found dead. Heart attacks don't require cover. Up unless you're covering something else. Bumpy stood up. Didn't plan it, just stood. The organ was playing. The choir was singing. Precious Lord. Reverend Powell was mid-sentence about Sadie's kindness. And 400 people turned to watch Bumpy Johnson walk toward that casket. The music faltered, stopped. The Reverend stopped mid-word. Complete silence. Bumpy reached the casket, looked down at Sadie. At the little girl who'd saved his life when she was 8, who'd dragged him into her apartment, who'd stitched him up with sewing thread, who'd grown up to save 300 other lives. He studied her face, the powder, the thick foundation on her neck. Then he did something that made the front row gasp. He reached down, gently touched the makeup on her neck with 2 fingers, rubbed carefully. It came off on his fingertips, thick, heavy stage makeup. Bumpy turned to Raymond Carter, the funeral director standing near the wall. 53 years old, nervous, sweating. Mr. Carter. Carter jumped. Yes, sir. Bumpy's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. Why is there so much makeup on her neck? Carter's face went white. His hand started shaking. I was just making her look peaceful, sir. Presentable for the family. Peaceful doesn't need this much cover. Bumpy held up his fingers, showed the thick makeup. This is theater makeup. This is cover-up makeup. Why? Carter couldn't answer. Just stood there shaking. Bumpy looked at Mrs. Washington. At her confused, grief-stricken face. Mom, I need to check something. I apologize. Mrs. Washington nodded, too shocked to speak. Bumpy gently, very gently, pushed back the white lace collar of Sadie's dress, and everyone in that church saw it. Rope burns. Deep red, purple, brutal, 2 distinct lines circling her throat. Someone in the front row screamed. Women started crying. Men stood up, angry, confused. The church erupted in noise. Bumpy pushed back Sadie's left sleeve. Cigarette burns, dozens of them. Small, perfect circles running up her forearm. He checked her right arm. Same thing. He looked at her hands. 3 broken fingernails, torn cuticles, bruised knuckles, defensive wounds. She'd fought hard. Bumpy closed his eyes for 3 seconds, saw it all, Sadie screaming, fighting, begging, dying. When he opened his eyes, his face was stone, but his hands were shaking. He turned to Raymond Carter. "Who told you to cover this up?" Carter was trembling, sweating.
Nobody, I just...
"Don't lie to me, Mr. Carter." Bumpy walked toward him, slow, deliberate, the crowd parting. Heart attack victims don't have rope burns. They don't have cigarette burns. They don't need heavy makeup. Someone told you to cover something up. Bumpy's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire silent church. "Who?" Carter's voice cracked. "Officer Donnelly. He came to my funeral home Thursday night, said there might be marks on the body. Said to cover them, make her look peaceful. He gave me $500. Said it was for the family's sake. I have kids, a business. I couldn't. You couldn't say no." Carter nodded, tears streaming down his face. The church was in chaos now. People shouting, crying, demanding answers. Bumpy raised his hand, silence. He turned to Reverend Powell. "Reverend, I need you to call the police commissioner right now. Tell him what we found here today. Tell him I'm demanding a real investigation." Powell nodded. "I'll call from my office." Bumpy looked back at Sadie one more time. Reached down, touched her hand gently. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," he whispered. "But I'm here now, and everyone who did this is going to answer for it." He looked at Carter. "You're going to write down every word Donnelly said to you. Every detail. You're going to sign it. Understand?" Carter nodded quickly. Bumpy turned to the crowd. Sadie Mae Washington was murdered, tortured, strangled, and police officers tried to hide it. Wrote heart attack to close the case. But Harlem doesn't forget, and Harlem doesn't let its people die without justice. The church erupted in shouts of agreement, rage. Then Bumpy Johnson walked out of that church and 400 people knew somebody was about to die. Chapter 80. The hunt begins Sunday, 6:00 p.m. Bumpy's office. Illinois. Bumpy and 3 of Bumpy's most trusted men sat around the desk. Illinois laid out what they knew. Vincent Moroni, Tommy Riachi, Frank Calabrese, all from New Haven. Moroni's the loan shark. Marcus Washington owed him money. Borrowed $800 in January, disappeared in March owing over $1,000. By September, with interest, it's over $200. Where are they now? Bumpy asked. Best guess, still in the area. Joey Numbers says Moroni has a cousin in the Bronx. Probably laying low there until this blows over. It's not blowing over. Bumpy looked at the photos again. What about the cops? Illinois pulled out another folder. 6 names involved in the cover up. Patrick Donnelly, first responding officer, took the bribe, filed the false report, paid Carter to cover up evidence. James Murphy, Donnelly's partner, went along with it. Robert Walsh, detective, signed off on closing the case without investigation. Frank Sullivan, Walsh's partner, also signed off. Dr. Leonard Ashford, medical examiner, signed death certificate without full autopsy. Dr. Philip Hartman, assistant me, co-signed. Bumpy studied each photo. Walsh first. He's the key. Detectives have to sign off on closed cases. He knew what he was doing. Illinois pulled out another envelope. Already ahead of you. He spread photos across the desk. Walsh at Carlos Social Club, shaking hands with known mob figures. Walsh accepting cash envelopes outside restaurants. Walsh with his mistress. He was married. Bank statements showing $23,000 deposited in 2 years, far more than a detective's salary. We've been watching Walsh for 4 years. Every payoff, every meeting, every lie. Bumpy smiled. Cole perfect. Chapter 90. The Squeeze. Monday, September 13th, 9:00 a.m. Bumpy walked into the 28th precinct. Past the front desk, past 3 uniformed officers who recognized him and didn't try to stop him. Straight to Detective Robert Walsh's desk. Walsh looked up, saw Bumpy, started to stand. Bumpy placed a manila envelope on the desk, sat down in the chair across from Walsh. Open it. Walsh's hand shook as he opened the envelope. Inside all the photos, all the bank statements, all the evidence. Walsh went pale. I've been watching you for 4 years, detective. Every payoff, every dinner with made men, every dollar you couldn't explain. Bumpy leaned forward. Sadie Mae Washington was murdered Wednesday night. Tortured for 3 hours. Strangled, and Thursday morning your boys showed up, saw evidence of torture, and wrote heart attack. Closed the case in 6 hours. No investigation, no autopsy, just signatures and paperwork. I didn't know. You didn't ask. That's the same thing. Bumpy pulled out 2 more envelopes. This one goes to the district attorney. This one goes to the Genovese family with a note explaining how you've been skimming from their protection money. Walsh understood immediately. Prison or a shallow grave. What do you want? I want you to find Vincent Moroni, Tommy Riachi, and Frank Calabrese. They're somewhere in the Bronx. Maroney has a cousin there. You're a detective. And then what? You don't arrest them. You give me their location. Walsh stared at Bumpy. You're asking me to. I'm telling you. Find them. Tell me where they are. Or I send these envelopes and you spend the next week choosing between Sing Sing and the East River. Bumpy stood, adjusted his hat. You have 48 hours, detective. Use them wisely. He walked out. Monday, 1100 M. Raymond Carter's funeral home. Carter was in his office when Bumpy walked in. This time with Illinois, Mr. Johnson. I was about to write everything down like you said. I know. I need to ask you some questions first. They sat. Carter was still shaking from yesterday, Thursday night. Donnelly came here what time? Around 8:00 p.m. After he'd met with the family. He said he'd suggested my funeral home to Mrs. Washington. What exactly did he say about the makeup? He said sometimes with sudden deaths, the body shows signs. Discoloration, bruising from the fall, he said. If there were any marks on Miss Washington's body, any bruises or injuries, I should cover them completely. Use heavy makeup if needed. He said the family didn't need to see anything that might upset them more than they already were. Did he specifically say what kind of marks? Carter nodded. He said around the neck area especially. Make sure it all looks natural. Bumpy and Illinois exchanged looks. So he knew about the rope burns before you even saw the body. Yes, sir. That's when I realized this wasn't just about making her look peaceful. Did anyone else come to the funeral home? Anyone watching? Thursday night when Donnelly left, I looked out my window. There was a blue car parked across the street. Someone sitting inside, just sitting there watching. Connecticut plates. Bumpy nodded. Maroney. Making sure Donnelly did what he was paid to do. He looked at Carter directly. Mr. Carter, you're going to write down everything. Every word Donnelly said, every detail about that blue car. You're going to sign it and date it. What if Donnelly comes back? Donnelly is not coming back. Not to Harlem, not anywhere. I promise you that. Chapter Honey. The location Monday afternoon through Tuesday morning. Walsh worked fast. He was a corrupt cop, but he wasn't stupid. He knew Bumpy wasn't bluffing. He called in favors, talked to informants, checked with the Bronx precincts. By Tuesday morning, he had a location, a house in the South Bronx. Maroney's cousin, Tony Maroney. 3 men had been seen coming and going. Blue Bic parked in the garage. Walsh called the number Bumpy had given him. I have an address. Tuesday, September 14th, 1100 p.m. Bumpy, Illinois and 4 trusted men sat in 2 cars across from Tony Maroney's house in the Bronx. They watched, waited. At 11:47 p.m. the lights went out. At 12:30 a.m. Bumpy's men moved, silent, professional. They cut the phone lines, disabled the car in the garage, surrounded the house. At 12:45 a.m., they went in. Vincent Maroney was asleep in the upstairs bedroom when he heard noise downstairs. He grabbed the gun from his nightstand, opened the door. Illinois was standing in the hallway with a shotgun. Drop it. Maroney dropped the gun. Downstairs, Riachi and Calabrese were already on their knees, hands behind their heads. Tony Maroney was tied to a chair in the kitchen. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what they did. Bumpy walked in through the front door. All 3 men, Vincent, Riachi, Calabrese, saw him. Vincent Maroney's face went white. Oh no. Oh God, no. Chapter 11 car. Justice in the warehouse, 1:30 a.m. An abandoned warehouse near the East River. The same warehouse where Sadie had died. Vincent Maroney, Tommy Riachi, and Frank Calabrese were tied to chairs. Bumpy stood in front of them, holding Sadie's photograph. The one from her nursing school graduation. Young, smiling, full of hope. Wednesday night, September 8, 1948. You grabbed Sadie Washington off 141st Street, brought her here to this warehouse, tied her to a chair. He looked around. Maybe this very room. You spent 3 hours torturing her, asking her where her brother was. She didn't know, couldn't tell you, so you kept going. You wrapped a rope around her neck, multiple times. Tightened it, loosened it, tightened it again. You burned her with cigarettes. You beat her. And when she still couldn't tell you what she didn't know, you strangled her. And then you dressed it up like a heart attack. Bumpy's voice was quiet, conversational, which made it more terrifying. Is that about right? Vincent tried to speak. We were just collecting a debt. You tortured a nurse to death, over 800 her brother borrowed. By September, it was $2,000 with interest. You think I care about your interest? Bumpy stepped closer. That woman delivered over 300 babies. She saved my life when she was 8 years old. She was family. He held up the photograph. Look at her. All 3 looked at young Sadie's smiling face. She was 30 years old, never hurt anybody, spent her whole life helping people, and you killed her over money. Maroney started crying. We didn't mean to kill her. It was an accident. Bumpy's face didn't change. You wrapped a rope around her neck and pulled until she stopped breathing. That's not an accident. That's murder. He turned to Illinois. Paper and pencils. Illinois handed them out. You're each going to write down exactly what happened. Every detail. The kidnapping, the torture, how long it took, how she died, how you paid Donnelly, everything. And if we do? Calabrese asked. Bumpy pulled out a gas can from the corner, placed it where they could all see it. If you don't, I burn this warehouse down with you in it. And if we write it? Rachi's voice shook. Then you die quickly. All three started writing. 45 minutes later, Bumpy had 3 signed confessions. He read them carefully, made sure every detail matched, made sure they implicated Donnelly. Then he looked at Illinois. Load them in the car. 3:30 a.m. the East River. Vincent Maroney, Tommy Riachi, and Frank Calabrese were tied with chains, weights attached. Bumpy stood in front of them. One last time, last words. Maroney was sobbing. Please, I have kids. Sadie had a mother. She was someone's daughter. She was my family. Bumpy nodded to his men. Maroney screamed as he went over the side. His screams cut off when he hit the water. Riachi started praying. Hail Mary, full of grace. He went over next. Calabrese was silent, just shaking. Any words? Bumpy asked.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to. You did it anyway.
Calabrese went over last. All 3 sank into the black water of the East River. By 400 m, their bodies had settled on the bottom. Illinois turned to Bumpy. What now? No, we deal with the cops who let it happen. Chapter 12A, The Reckoning, Wednesday, September 15th, 10:00 a.m. Detective Walsh sat at his desk. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. He'd given Bumpy the address. He knew what that meant. Maroney, Riachi, and Calabrese were dead. He was sure of it. His phone rang. Detective Walsh, this is Commissioner Hendricks. I need to see you in my office now. Walsh's blood ran cold. Commissioner's office, 10:30 a.m. Commissioner Thomas Hendricks sat behind his desk. Next to him, Deputy Commissioner Morrison and Captain Riley from the 28th Precinct. On the desk, photos from Sadie's second viewing. The rope burns, the cigarette burns, the defensive wounds, and a signed statement from Raymond Carter detailing Donnelly's visit and instructions. Detective Walsh, can you explain to me why Sadie Washington's death was ruled natural causes when she clearly died from strangulation? Walsh couldn't answer. Can you explain why Officer Donnelly paid a funeral director to cover up evidence of torture? Silence. Can you explain why you signed off on closing this case without a proper investigation? Walsh looked at the photos, at evidence he'd ignored. No, sir. No, sir, that's it. A woman was murdered and you wrote heart attack and filed it away. Sir, a mistake. Detective, this is corruption. This is obstruction of justice. This is... A knock on the door. An officer entered. We found Maroney, Riachi, and Calabrese, the 3 suspects from Connecticut. We're... East River, all 3 dead. Looks like they drowned. The room went silent. Hendricks looked at the officer. How did they end up in the East River? Unknown, sir. But we found something in Maroney's cousin's house. Written confessions from all 3. Detailed accounts of kidnapping and murdering Sadie Washington. And they mention Officer Donnelly by name. Say they paid him $1,000 to falsify the report. Hendricks's face went red. He looked at Walsh. Where is Donnelly? I don't know, sir. Find him? Now, Wednesday, 2:00 p.m. Patrick Donnelly was at his apartment packing a suitcase when 6 officers knocked on his door. Officer Donnelly, you need to come with us. Wednesday, 4:00 p.m. Commissioner's office. Donnelly sat across from Hendricks, Morrison, and Riley, a lawyer beside him. Officer Donnelly, we have written confessions from 3 murder suspects stating they paid you $1,000 to falsify a death report. We have a signed statement from Raymond Carter stating you instructed him to cover up evidence of torture. We have a medical examiner's revised report confirming Sadie Washington died from strangulation, not heart failure. Donnelly's lawyer whispered in his ear. My client has no comment at this time. Hendricks leaned forward. Your client has 2 options. Resign immediately and face criminal charges, or fight this and go to prison. Those are his options. He has 1 hour to decide. Wednesday, 5:00 p.m. Patrick Donnelly resigned from the NYPD. Thursday morning, September 16th, he was formally arrested and charged with obstruction of justice, accepting bribes, and falsifying official documents. He made bail, fled New York, was never seen again. The rest of the dominoes fell quickly. Wednesday afternoon, Commissioner Hendricks called in Officers Murphy and Sullivan and Detective Walsh. Gentlemen, you all signed off on or participated in a false investigation. Officer Murphy, you were there when Donnelly falsified the report. Detectives Walsh, Detective Sullivan, you closed the case without proper investigation. You have 3 options: resign, face charges, or transfer to desk duty in Staten Island for the remainder of your careers. Officer James Murphy chose transfer. Spent the next 15 years filing paperwork in Staten Island. Never worked the streets again. Detective Frank Sullivan resigned effective immediately. Left New York. Detective Robert Walsh resigned effective end of month. Before leaving, he wrote a letter to the Amsterdam News admitting his failure and apologizing to Sadie's family. It was published on the front page. Thursday afternoon, the medical examiner's office. Commissioner Hendricks personally visited Dr. Leonard Ashford and Dr. Philip Hartman. Gentlemen, you signed a death certificate without performing a complete autopsy. You missed rope burns, cigarette burns, and defensive wounds because you didn't look under makeup. He placed the corrected autopsy report, done properly this time, on the desk. Dr. Ashford, as chief medical examiner, this failure happened on your watch. Ashford had no defense. I'll tender my resignation. See that you do. Dr. Hartman, you're being transferred to the Queen's office effective Monday. By Friday, September 17th, Officer Patrick Donnelly resigned, arrested, fled. Charges pending. Officer James Murphy, transferred to desk duty. Career effectively over. Detective Robert Walsh, resigned, publicly apologized. Detective Frank Sullivan, resigned, left New York. Dr. Leonard Ashford, resigned in disgrace. Dr. Philip Hartman, transferred, demoted. 6 men all removed from positions where they could ever cover up a murder again. Chapter 30E, the truth revealed Thursday, September 16th. The Amsterdam News front page: Nurse Sadie Washington murdered, 3 killers found dead, 6 nipped officers resign after cover up exposed. The article detailed everything. The kidnapping, the torture, the false report, the bribe, the cover-up. It mentioned that Bumpy Johnson attended Sadie's funeral and noticed inconsistencies that led to further investigation. Everyone in Harlem knew what that meant. Bumpy didn't just notice inconsistencies, he made sure justice was served, and everyone who'd looked the other way paid the price. Monday, September 20th, 1948. Sadie Washington's second funeral was held at Mount Olivet Baptist Church, this time with the truth. Over 800 people came. The church couldn't hold everyone. People stood outside, lined the streets. The casket was open, no heavy makeup this time. Just Sadie as she was, beautiful, gone. Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr. spoke last Sunday. We stood in this church and mourned a woman we thought died of heart failure. Today we know different. Sadie Washington was murdered. Kidnapped off the street she'd walked 1,000 times. Tortured for 3 hours. Killed by men who saw her as nothing more than a debt to collect. He paused. Let that sink in. For 6 days, powerful men tried to hide that truth. Police officers wrote art attack and closed the case. Medical examiners signed papers without looking. Detectives asked no questions. But someone refused to let Sadie's death be forgotten. Someone demanded truth. And because of that demand for justice, 3 killers are dead. 6 officers who betrayed their oaths are gone. And Harlem knows what really happened. Amen. The church erupted. Amen. This is what justice looks like. Not perfect, not clean, but real. Sadie Washington's name will not be forgotten. Her death will not be hidden. And those who tried to bury the truth have been buried themselves. Amen. After the service, Mrs. Dorothy Washington found Bumpy outside Ellsworth. He turned. She took both his hands in hers. Thank you for everything. For not letting them hide what happened. For making sure those men answered. For making sure my baby's name meant something. I didn't do it for thanks, Mrs. Washington. I know. You did it because Sadie was family. Because when she was a little girl, she saved your life. And because you never forget. She pressed something into his hand, a photograph. 8-year-old Sadie, smiling, 1926, standing in front of her mother's apartment. Remember her this way, before the world became cruel. Bumpy looked at the little girl who dragged him into her apartment, who'd stitched him up, who'd kept him hidden. I'll never forget. Epilogue: The Legacy, September 12, 1948. The day Bumpy Johnson stopped a funeral. Not by breaking in. Not by causing chaos. By seeing what 400 people had missed. By recognizing that too much makeup means something to hide. By demanding truth when the system offered comfortable lies. By following a single anonymous note from a terrified witness. By believing that note over official reports. By making sure that Sadie Washington's death meant something. Mrs. Ella Brooks never revealed that she'd written that note. She took the secret to her grave in 1967. But every year on September 8th, the anniversary of Sadie's murder, she put fresh flowers on Sadie's grave. The note that changed everything. 4 lines on a piece of paper, slipped under a door by a frightened old woman who'd seen too much to stay silent. They took her. Wednesday night, 11:32 p.m. 3 white men, Blue Bic, Connecticut plates. 4 lines that toppled 6 corrupt officials. 4 lines that sent 3 killers to the bottom of the East River. 4 lines that proved one person's courage to speak truth could change everything. Sadie Mae Washington was laid to rest at Woodlawn Cemetery. Her gravestone reads, Nurse, Healer, Angel of Harlem, September 14, 1918, September 8, 1948. She saved lives. Harlem remembers. And beneath that, added later by someone unknown, justice was served. The case changed how the NYPD handled suspicious deaths in minority communities. Commissioner Hendricks instituted new protocols requiring complete autopsies for all unexpected deaths, mandatory second opinions on cause of death determinations, and oversight of funeral preparation to prevent evidence tampering. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't enough, but it was a start, because of one nurse who saved lives, because of one witness who spoke truth, because of one man who refused to let murder hide behind makeup. Remember Sadie Mae Washington. September 14, 1980, September 8, 1948. She saved lives. Harlem remembers. And Harlem never forgets. If this story moved you, if Sadie Mae Washington's name means something to you, hit that subscribe button. Like this video if you believe her life mattered. Drop a comment. When the law fails, what options are left? Next week, a 12-year-old Shushin boy is beaten to death by corrupt cops. What Bumpy did next forced the NYPD to create internal affairs. Subscribe for more untold stories of courage, justice, and the people who refuse to let evil hide in the darkness.